Hello, making text look great is no small feat in an Android app, so I want us to take a few minutes and practice this skill. The goal is simple. We have this bit of content that's completely unformatted and we have to make it look lovely. In the process, we'll use everything we've learned so far and then some. Let's get to it. Hierarchy is at the top of my to-do list. What's the most important element in this screen? I'd say it's the title, so our font choice has to reflect that. Next, we have the actual content, but we have to show the author and article information in an aesthetically pleasing way too. Let's start with our sizes. For the headline, let's go with 50 pixels to get things rolling. This layer needs to be converted to paragraph text so we can easily change its font family and size without having to constantly fiddle with it. We can approximate the length, but once we're done, we can use the Properties panel to reset this element's width to 656 pixels, which is the artboard's size minus the two 32-pixel margins. So far, so good. Now for the body, item number 2 in our chain of command. We can use 28 pixels. Multiply that value with 1.5, and we get a line height of 42 pixels. Great. Formatting also includes breaking paragraphs into smaller chunks that make the whole thing look less intimidating. Look for full stops every 3 to 6 lines and hit enter. I'll place one after Monday and another one here. Moving on to the author, I'd say 26 pixels is fine, but I'll also transform it into all caps. Finally, for the last item in terms of importance, we can use 24 pixels. This begs a recap. 50 for the headline, 28 by 42 for the actual content, 26 in all caps for the author, and 24 for the article's details. The hierarchy is set, and I think it's pretty straightforward. In case you have issues determining the chain of command, ask the client or browse around on Google Play and see what other apps from the same space are doing. Let's not forget about the screen's title. I'll go with the standard 36 pixel size in a regular form. Now that all 4 are fairly well formatted, we can get to work. Next, I'll fire up Google Fonts so we can get inspired. Because this is an article that has no other type of media content like video, photo or audio, we have to rely on typography alone to do the heavy lifting. As such, we should be allowed to use 2 different typefaces, one for the title and one for the actual content. I've browsed around and I've selected multiple combinations. For our first iteration, we'll keep it simple by using Noto Serif as our typeface. For the title, this needs to be in bold. Italic might catch your eye as you're going down the list, but that's best used for quotes inside these paragraphs and not for the title itself. For its colour, something like 222 is a very standard yet well-rounded choice. It's not as harsh as pure black, yet it's still a classic look. As for the distance, 50 pixels from the action bar should do just nicely. This might seem generous, but remember this screen has nothing else besides text layers, so we have to use white space without reserves. Because we're getting into the finer details, let's go with a top-to-bottom approach. For the author, let's add a splash of colour, and I'm thinking something like FF3C00. This is a bright, intense orange that's bound to break up the monotony of this white background. As for the first word, that can remain in 222. Let's make the author's name bold, and we'll decide later if this is something worth keeping. We're adding emphasis because users can tap it and see other articles written by this author. Right, let's move down to the article's details. This row can be fairly washed out, so let's change its colour to 666. The typeface needs to be Noto Serif. These commas are pretty boring, so let's add some space between each item and we'll use a special character. This is called a bullet, and you can create it by holding Alt and typing 0149. As an alternative, you can always use Google and copy-paste it. That's what I do when I want a euro or British pound symbol. Leave 3 empty spaces on the left, 3 on the right, and the bullet in the middle. Now we can copy and paste it. This is much better. You could argue these 2 might need to be orange as well, but I'll leave them as they are for now. I want to focus on the text. Quickly change it to Noto Serif, and let's leave some space between it and these details from above. 50 pixels should do just fine. If you remember, that's what we used for the title. These 3 layers form one unit, and this one is the second item. We're using space to create imaginary lines, which are always far better than actual dividers. For the colour, I want something interesting, so let's fire up the colour picker and we can browse for a dark red or brown shade. Though you might not see the difference through this recording, believe me, it's there and people will appreciate it, even though it may happen at a subconscious level. If you like it, use that colour code for the headline. We always want things to match up. The same applies to the word by next to the author's name. Now for the finishing touches. This right here is a reference to another article, so it needs to be shown as a link. Let's make it bold and orange. I personally love all these fine details, they really add up. Finally, select all the text layers and left align them, just to be sure they're correctly positioned. Okay, this is our screen. We started from nothing and we've transformed this screen into a lovely design. Now it's your turn. Let me know how it goes.